For the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world, we are live and amplified. So let's get ready to podcast.
Fire it up.
Guys, you hear me?
Yes. Hello.
Okay. Hey, how's it going?
Not too bad. How are you?
Good. Thank you so much for jumping on and joining us. I'm really excited to sit down and chat with y'all and get to know more about the Cheesebergens. Is that how you pronounce it?
Cheeseburgers. Yeah.
Yeah.
Our last name is Bergen, so we named the band Cheeseburgers.
Gotcha. It's always fun because a lot of the musicians we've worked or had on here so far are already musicians that I know or have worked with in some capacity. So it's fun to sit down and chat with musicians that we haven't had a chance to chat with. So first off, what's kind of the origin story of the Cheesebergens?
Okay, well, we're a family band. For those that don't know, it's me and my wife, who isn't here. She's at work right now. My son, Jesse, who's 19 now, and my daughter, Angelica, who's 14. And I play drums. The wife plays bass, and she actually writes most of the songs. Jesse and Angelica both play guitar and sing. He does mostly leads. So it started out because we had sent both of our kids to rock school, like School of Rock and programs like that. And, they've been playing covers for years. In Jesse's case, almost 10 years. And it just kind of got boring, and he was looking to start his own metal band. And he couldn't really find kids his age at the time. He was like 14 or whatever. And it was a 4th of July weekend. And I work at a giant rehearsal studio here in LA. So we were like, well, what are we going to do over the weekend of the 4th? So we were all musicians. So we said, well, let's just get together and jam, let's go in and screw around and make noise. And that's kind of how it started, really, was the lack of them being able to find musicians their own age, and me and the wife kind of being bored. We had always been musicians, so it just kind of came natural to us. So
You
want to say anything about that, Jesse?
No, I think that was it.
Pretty much covers it, I guess.
So you're a family metal band? Is that what it is? It?
He does have his own metal band now.
We play kind of like punk, sort of like, more like classic metal. I do also have my own band now called Diabology, where we play more like, like heavy metal.
Yeah. This we describe this as like Ramones meets Motorhead meets the Partridge Family. That's what Cheesebergens is.
I love it. It's perfect. It describes it in such perfect simplicity, as confusing as it sounds, it still describes it in perfect simplicity. So you guys are out in LA, correct? That's where you're based out of? Are you from there originally, or where did he is.
Oh yeah. My wife is from Brooklyn, and I'm from outside of Indianapolis, and we met here in like the late 90s.
Okay.
Both in bands and on the club scene, and we've been together married for 21 years now, and kids were born here in LA.
Nice. Awesome. I'm actually from Chicago myself, so I know
Midwest.
Indianapolis pretty decently, so no, that's awesome. And then so for the Cheesebergens, how long ago did you guys start playing together? You said 4th of July, but like how
6 years. It's been
6 years?
Over 6 years, yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay, gotcha. And then, so what do you guys, where are you kind of at creatively right now? Are you working on music, releasing music? Where are you guys kind of at?
So we've been doing this project over quarantine. We've been releasing a new single every month for the past, I don't even know how many months. And we're posting those to Bandcamp. And our plan is that once we have all of them, we're going to make them into a double album called Double with Cheese.
Nice.
And we're going to post it to all the major, streaming platforms once we have
everything ready to go.
We already have 2 records up on all the streaming services. Our debut album was called Do It With Cheese, and the sophomore one was called More Cheese, Please. And now this new double album, which I think will be out in the spring maybe early summer of next year. Like you said, we're releasing it incrementally, but it'll finally be out as a compilation on all the streaming services, probably late spring or summer next year.
For sure. I know we've played one of your songs on our radio show that airs in Roswell, New Mexico. I
Nice.
don't have the list in front of me, so I couldn't even tell you what song it was. What's that?
I said big ups to the aliens, Roswell.
Oh yeah. I lived there for 4 years, so it was when we got approached at the end of last year, it was like, yes, I'll do it. We'll do it.
Cool.
So, it's always exciting. But I think that was how I was initially introduced to you. Was somebody sent me your link? I must have been a Spotify link or maybe a SoundCloud. Like whatever it was. Maybe Bandcamp, maybe that's what it was. So yeah, I've been following you for at least a few months now, and really enjoy what I hear. And glad you guys were able to jump on our fundraising podcast. So
thank you so much for having us.
Happy to, yeah.
Absolutely. So for everybody that's just kind of tuning in, this is a fundraising podcast to raise funds and awareness for pancreatic cancer, for research, all that interesting stuff to help increase the mortality rate of pancreatic cancer, because right now the survivability once you're diagnosed with pancreatic cancer is 10%. So with the research that's going on, we're hoping that it'll go up, and as things happen, as science does what science does, the survivability will increase. So I do want to ask, have you experienced anybody with pancreatic cancer or had any experiences with pancreatic cancer, anything like that?
Cancer is like pretty prevalent in my family. So yeah, it's definitely affected us. I lost both my grandmother and my father to it, and my stepfather. So yeah, quite a bit. Not pancreatic per se, but lymph and lung and throat. Yeah. So yeah, cancer is definitely a terrible thing, and I know pancreatic is some of the most aggressive that there is.
Yeah, yeah, it's terrible. It not like I don't want to keep rehashing a lot of the same stories, but it took my mom passed away in July, and she was diagnosed the end of March. So like we don't know how long it was growing, like because she'd been dealing with back pains for some time, but like that's the whole point of this, is to try and raise awareness that if you're not feeling right, because it is such a, like, it's in a lot of respects, it's a lot like colon cancer, where you don't know until it's too late.
Kind of a stealth disease, yeah.
Yeah, so it's just one of those things. But I do appreciate you all jumping on here and chatting with me for a little bit. Cancer obviously is a very tough thing to talk about, but it's something that needs to get talked about, because there's so many people. Like, I don't know from your perspective, but just since my mom got diagnosed, we've had so many friends and family that have gotten diagnosed and passed away from cancer. So I don't know if we're just becoming more aware of what's going on, or
yeah.
What was that?
It seems to happen in groups. I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah. Because the 2 days before my mother died, my cousin's uncle, so like the uncle on my non-fraternal side, he passed away from brain cancer.
Oh, thanks.
And so like that's like a whole not inside family joke, but my mom and him were like best friends because they were the social outcasts at the family parties, or the family outcasts. So, it was just interesting that they both passed away 2 days apart from each other. So, but yeah, like I said, appreciate you guys jumping on here. If anybody's interested in donating, the links are below, or feel free to reach out. Let's jump back into the music. You set off on the mission to release a single every month throughout the pandemic. Was that something that you had originally just started doing at the beginning of 2020, or was it pandemic hit and it's like, no, we got to keep the music going?
Yeah,
It
no,
was kind of the setup for it.
killed all of our plans for 2020, all of our live gigs and stuff. It's actually funny. We were on stage when the stay-at-home order was issued here in California. So we were literally playing as they were telling us, you can't play anymore. So, but we decided pretty immediately that we were going to go crazy, the four of us in this apartment together, if we didn't do something constructive. So we decided that we were going to do a live stream every Friday night, which we pretty much have done since the beginning of the pandemic. My cat's going crazy over here. I'm sorry.
Oh, it's all good.
Distracted by her making weird noises. Anyway, so we pretty much started right at the beginning, and we've been doing it more or less every Friday night since. Here recently, it's been a little less frequent because we actually were able to get back out in the world and play gigs with both Cheesebergens and Diabology. So, but we're still doing it. I think we're on episode 72 or something now of the live stream that we started at the beginning. But to answer your original question, the singles kind of came as a side an aside to that, because my wife is always writing, and Jesse and I write a little bit too for Cheesebergens. His focus is mainly on Diabology, but so naturally, from playing all those shows and just rehearsing so much and stuff, and her writing so much, all of these new songs started pouring out, and we always had an abundance of material. So we decided it would be a good time to kind of incrementally get that out and work on it a little at a time. We knew that we were going to have trouble getting a complete record done, piecemeal, and it was going to take forever. So we just thought, let's drop them as singles as they come, and nobody buys full albums anymore anyway, it seems like. So. And doing it. It's given my daughter. My daughter's very artistic, so she's been doing most of the cover art for the single stuff. It's been like definitely a family project. So.
Yeah, and that ended up proving very well for at least throughout the pandemic, because that seemed to be the shift that a lot of musicians made, was releasing everything as singles and not so like any full length albums or whatever, were kind of put on hold. So that ended up being a very strategic move, whether intentional or not. So
yeah, no, sorry, definitely helps with like the algorithms and stuff, the way that music works now with like the streaming services and everything.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting. The music industry's changed so much, so it's absolutely interesting how everything kind of goes. And so you're still doing the once a month. Are you going to try and do it through the end of the year? Do you see a stopping point coming soon, or are you going to just kind of keep doing it?
We actually have enough of them to go through, I think it's March or April of next year. So That's actually what we're doing. We're going to get them all out before we compile them and put them on the streaming services. So that's pretty much the plan. I think it was a total of like 26 songs. I think we had like 13 or 14 months worth of singles.
Oh, wow.
Of A/B side singles.
Yeah, absolutely. So how does the writing process kind of break down for the band? You said your wife does a lot of the writing, or how does that kind of?
Yeah, I mean, primarily most of it comes from her, at least initially. I'd say probably 85% of it's entirely her, and then Jesse and I, I'll contribute a riff or some lyrics or whatever, and he'll help her sort out arrangements and riffs and stuff. But for the most part, it's her. She's funny. She writes comedic little pop gems, pop gems.
So then the important question that I have is, out of all the songs that you've written over the last year and a half, what's your favorite one to perform?
The last year and a half, I would say.
I'm trying to like do a timeline and figure out like which songs you did when.
Let's see, Social Distancing,
or at least that you've. How about that you've released during this project?
Right.
That helps.
I don't think we released it yet, but we have a single called "Getting the Band Back Together" that I'm excited for. I like that song a lot.
Nice.
It's a pretty cool song. I think Social Distancing, it speaks to the time and the time frame. It's a song about the pandemic. So I like that a lot. It's very punky.
That's actually the next single we're releasing.
It is actually, that is our November single. It's coming out at the end of this month. So with I can't remember what's on the B side of it now. Yeah, I don't know. We've been actually re-releasing some of our old songs as the B sides because we're a better band now and we don't sound as much a train wreck as we did in the originally. It's worth mentioning too, actually, that we were all guitar players. There were no drummers, so I had to learn to play drums at the age of 45, so we could do this. So,
How did that transition work for you?
yeah, it was cool. You know, I mean, I suck, but I'm having a blast doing it. So, you know,
Hey, as long as you can keep time, you know.
punk rock, you know, I'm beating.
Yeah.
It's fine.
As long as you can keep time, you're all right, right?
Yeah.
No, that's really cool. And then you'd mentioned earlier that you're starting to get back out and playing live shows and all that fun stuff. Thankfully, the pandemic and LA and all that stuff is just kind of loosening up altogether. What are your shows looking like for the foreseeable future? How often are you playing? You know, all that fun stuff.
Well, honestly, Cheesebergens is pretty slow right now because we're actually focusing on Diabology at the moment through the winter. They're working on their sophomore album with a guy named Dave Kaminsky, who's done a lot of like pretty well-known metal stuff. So we're doing pre-production on that, and you know, they're actually playing in San Francisco this weekend for the first time ever.
Well, yeah, in the Bay Area.
Well, Bay Area, yeah.
Bay Area,
Not
yeah.
actual San Francisco.
Yeah, if anyone's out, please come out.
Everybody's watching in Pacifica or Cupertino. Well, Diabology's at Winter's Tavern on Saturday night, and what's the other one?
The X Bar on Sunday.
Cupertino Sunday.
Nice. So you're making a nice little weekend run up to the Bay Area.
So yeah,
Mini tour.
Cheeseburgers are just playing whenever something comes up. You know, we get offered a lot of weird things like flea markets and pizza place gigs, and you know, just oddities. Things where bands and all age the bands can play, and it's fun. It's very DIY. So we don't tend to plan a lot. You know, like the shows outside of our live stream, which we're going to continue to do whenever we can. You know,
that's awesome though that you kind of got a band that's just going with whatever's brought your way, and if it works, it works.
Family that live in the same apartment, that definitely helps us. You know, it's like we don't call each other and coordinate. We yell down the hall and go, "Hey, you're playing tonight." It's like, oh no, there's no getting out of it. There's no excuses.
Yeah, for sure. So since you brought up Cheesebergens and you guys playing like in odd places, what's the oddest venue you've played at for Cheesebergens?
We opened for Southern California Batman in the parking lot of a Del Taco in Hesperia once.
Nice.
And it was windy and cold, and it was really bad. Actually, wasn't that a cancer benefit too, or something? It was like it was some sort of benefit. It was either like a toy drive or a food drive, or maybe I don't know, but it was a charity thing, and it was cool.
Yeah.
There were a lot of kids there to see a Batman, and they really dug my daughter, who's like the queen of the Munchkins. You know, so she kind of always ends up as their hero. So, but
That's
yeah, that was a weird one. We've done a lot of really weird gigs, honestly, but that was probably the weirdest one.
Nice. And are you guys pretty much primarily playing in the LA area, or do you eventually get out and?
Well, it's mostly in Southern California. Yeah, I mean, just from the lack of, Cheesebergens is a semi-serious band.
Okay. Yeah, gotcha.
Everything else the family does, it's kind of an aside. So we aren't averse to playing elsewhere, just nobody's offered. So if anybody out there wants to bring us, anywhere else, we're down. Actually, we're gonna play in Chicago. We were lined up to do that before the pandemic, and then that whole summer got shot to shit. We were going to come out and play for a company called Shit Show Productions there in Chicago. It was doing some sort of punk fest like north of the city or something. Yeah, it fell through because of all of that. But yeah, we'd love to get out there. Like I said, being from the Midwest, we'd love to tour out there, and New York, and we're down. Call us.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I'm in Waco, Texas now, so it's a completely different scene down here.
Yeah,
completely different scene. No, that's cool though. But once again, I do want to thank y'all for jumping on here. It's always fun to make our first conversation something very serious about this, because then it's kind of like not awkward, but it's like, oh, how do we approach this conversation? Because I don't have much context to who you are and all that fun stuff. But I have been playing Cheesebergens on our radio show for
Nice.
I did it at least once, so I was at least familiar with some of your music.
We appreciate it, man.
Yeah.
But before we kind of start wrapping this up, we had somebody from LA on here a little bit ago, but from your perspective, how is the scene starting to shape up now that the just as musicians in general, not necessarily as Cheeseburgers, but how is the scene starting to shape up now that everything's starting to lift and shows are starting to happen?
I mean, honestly, it's been pretty tough. I mean, there's so many venues that, like just totally like shut down, didn't make it through the pandemic. A lot of places are still like kind of in limbo where they're like, I know. So some places, I guess, to feel like COVID isn't like, over enough, I guess, so there's some places that are still like in limbo. And yeah, I mean, there's so many bands that like, broke up over the pandemic and then like, because I mean, of course, that always happens where bands are always breaking up and forming. But since we couldn't go out, we don't really know like the new bands that formed and like a bunch of the old bands are gone. So
it's always
it's weird. It's a bit rough. I mean, things are still kind of falling back into place, I would say.
Yeah.
Our scene's weird anyway because we're like both Cheeseburgers and Diabology have underage members. Diabology is entirely underage, so we've always had difficulties finding places to play, and even more so now. My wife actually started a production company. She promotes shows and books shows and stuff specifically for all ages venues and trying to help kids get gigs and stuff. But it's been really brutal, especially those. Things that don't profit off of like alcohol and whatnot. They really suffered during this. A lot of the places that we worked with were like arts collectives and things that relied on contributions and private funding, and those things have dried way up. So it's going to take a while for that to come back. And we're doing our part, and my wife especially, trying to promote shows for kids and find venues and places to play. But it's tough. It always has been, and it's more so now.
Yep, absolutely. And and then the thing in LA is always, isn't there well, I mean, I guess in every 21 and over bar that nobody under 21 can go in there, but isn't there like a work law that you can't do shows if you're under like 18 or something?
No, it gets weird and tricky, but it comes down really in California to the venue owner. They kind of decide whether the performers can be inside, if they're underage, and most of them, frankly, say no because of the insurance implications. That's the real concern is a lot of their insurances won't cover people under 21 being in there. So
yeah, for sure. All right, so before we wrap this up, we've started something new just specifically for this fundraiser. Is I have a random question generator sitting off to the side here, and we ask everybody whatever random question pops up. So I'm gonna spin it here, and we'll see what happens.
All right.
Okay. What's the worst concert you've ever been to?
I have a feeling we're gonna have the same answer.
Are we?
Yeah, maybe.
Oh,
what? I don't know if this counts, but the worst thing I ever saw was Five Finger Death Punch at a festival. Yeah, they were just wretched and horrible and whiny crybabies, and they were just terrible. The rest of the festival was really good.
We personally don't like them, which is, a matter of personal opinion, of course. But they also, especially the singer, had a very bad attitude. They were on right before Slipknot, who is, of course, headlining, and they were bitching how they didn't have pyrotechnics, and they refused to end their set on time. Like, they pushed back Slipknot's set at their own festival. And so, I mean, even aside from just not liking them, it's just, not cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. Well, once again, thank you so much for jumping on here. If anybody wants to check out your music that you have currently out on Spotify and all that stuff, where's the best place for them to do that?
We're on all the streaming services. I mean, whatever your thing of choice, just make sure you spell our name right.
Yeah, there's no one else called the Cheesebergens.
If you Google us,
yeah, if you search up the Cheesebergens, wherever it is, you'll find us.
Spell it right. It's Bergen. Cheeseburgers, Bergen. You'll find us. Yeah.
How often do you get asked to play at a burger joint?
Surprisingly, not that much. I mean, I mentioned the Del Taco thing. That was probably the closest thing we've done, and that wasn't specifically for Del Taco. So no, not so much. You would think we would more.
Yeah.
You feel like at least for the mom and pop shops, like not like the big mainstream ones, but like the mom and pop ones, they want to just do something random on a Saturday night,
Yeah.
It'd be an easy play.
Yeah.
Yeah, really.
You're out there watching.
Yeah, exactly.
Cheeseburgers will open your burger joint.
Yeah, Five Guys.
Yeah, exactly.
There you go. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for jumping on here. Really appreciate it. Thank you everybody for tuning in. We have a still long way to go. We are out here until Sunday night raising funds and awareness for pancreatic cancer to benefit the Pancreatic Cancer Action Network, who is funding a bunch of research and different stuff. So if you're interested in donating, the donation link is in the comment thread below if you're watching on YouTube, or if you're on, wherever else you're watching. So once again, Cheesebergens, thank you all so much for jumping on.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, we appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you guys have a good one, and we will catch you guys. Let me know if you want to jump on a full in-depth podcast. We can get the full band in, and
we're always down.
Yeah, we would love to.
Yeah, we'd love to.
have a grand old time. Well, once again, thank you, and we will be right back with Izzy's Caravan.
And best of luck to you on their fundraising, man.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Good work, man.
Yeah.
All right. You guys have a good one.
You too.
You too.
Thanks,
All
man.
right. Bye.
Bye.